Commerce and also the Nacogdoches Economic Development Corporation. We are being sponsored today by Farmer State Bank and the Piney Woods Apartment Association. My name is Cassandra Stokes. I'm a business advisor for the Small Business Development Center, whose mission is to help new entrepreneurs realize the dream of business ownership and assist existing businesses to remain competitive in an ever-changing global economy. I have the pleasure of introducing today's topic along with our session speakers. A couple of housekeeping things though first. I want to point out that there are 4 emergency exits in this room, over here, and then in the back. This is not an emergency exit, and this is a storage room, so you don't want to go that way. If you need to use the restroom facilities or get water, it's out the back where you came in and into the main hallway there. Also, we ask everyone to quiet their cell phones and be sure that you have a handout along with a survey. We appreciate you filling out that survey and handing it to one of the chamber members before you leave. And then our speakers invite you to ask questions along the way. If we start getting short on time though, we may need to have you submit your questions on the survey, and then the answers will come back to everyone who signed in with an email address. Today's topic is doing business with SFA in the UT system. Over the next hour and a half, our esteemed speakers will discuss everything you need to know about navigating the procurement process at Stephen F. Austin State University under the UT system. They'll be addressing the changes and necessary requirements to do business with the university as of September the 1st, how to submit a proposal along with bidding limits, supplier diversity, including the advantages of being a hub vendor, vendor credibility and collegiate licensing, as well as state and other cooperative contracts, also known as group purchasing. I'm thrilled to introduce 2 very experienced professionals who will be sharing valuable procurement information with us today. First, we have Kay Johnson. She is a proud SFA lumberjack who earned her business degree from SFA in 1989. She worked for Nacogdoches Memorial Hospital for 18 years and has been working for SFA for 19. She currently serves as the Executive Director of Finance and Administrative Services. And then we have Kim Jones, who is also a lumberjack, who also graduated from SFA in 1989. She too worked for Memorial Hospital for 12 years, and she has been working for SFA for 7. She currently serves as the Director of Procurement. Please help me welcome our panelists. So, I'm handing it over to you guys.
Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here today, and I know Kim and I are excited to be here and just kind of share some topics with you about doing business with SFA. And I just want one clarification. I've been at SFA about almost 8 years. So vast background was healthcare, and then had the opportunity to go over to SFA, and it's been great. So again, you've gotten our introductions. These are the topics we're going to go over, and hopefully you have your handout, so I don't want to be repetitive and read what's on your handout, but we'll kind of interact as we go through the slides. Again, we're going to talk about SFA's transition to the University of Texas system and how it relates to procurement. So let me make sure I'm very clear about that. There's lots of other transitioning happening, but we're going to speak to it today from a procurement and business services standpoint. We'll talk about best value purchasing. How does SFA buy goods and services and procure those? And the different avenues that we allow our campus to purchase: procurement card, requisitions, we have state and cooperative contracts, solicitations, and again, Cassandra kind of mentioned all these points: supplier diversity, our vendor credibility, collegiate licensing, and there's a few other topics. So first of all, just kind of our mission for our Procurement Business Services Office. We're there to support our campus, to provide procurement tools, in securing goods and services that represent the best value to the university. And all along while promoting full and equal business opportunities for everyone, all businesses. And we also oversee the asset records for the university under the Procurement Business Services. So, many of you, you may or you may not know, so I'm trying to look for familiar faces. I believe it was back in 2018, I attended a chamber event, and I also provided a presentation on how to do business with SFA. So, back then we were in a different location. We were on Wilson Drive. So we have now relocated in the Austin building on the first floor. And that's where we will have our bid openings and so forth, and Kim will talk about that here in a little bit, and myself. But just to kind of let you know, we've been in this location for about 1.5 years now. Our website has a lot of information. We have a topic on our website that just lists do business. So if you've ever visited our website, probably over the last maybe 1.5 years, we've had a major update to our website. It's been a concerted effort across our campus to update our websites. So, and with joining the UT system, just kind of be patient with us, because it is in flux a little bit with some edits that are being made. So if you have any questions about any information on our website, feel free to contact Kim Jones or myself, and you've got our contacts in the presentation. So, again, a couple of other topics that we have on our website, and you think fraud and ethics. I feel bad that I put that one first. But guess what? It happens. There's a lot of fraudulent activity out in the vendor world, from the purchasing world. And we try to share that information on our website because it is key. It is very important. If ever in doubt, if you ever have the opportunity and you're doing business with SFA, feel free to call us, because again, if the purchase order or something doesn't look quite right, we want to protect you as well as the university. So it happens to all institutions across Texas for sure, and worldwide. So we have a little bit of information on our website there, the best value procurement and our procurement cards, our purchase order terms and conditions. We all have to have those, being an institution of higher ed. In payments, we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then our tax exempt information. So we are tax exempt, and will continue to be. Okay, so I think this is probably the bigger topic, and I want to just address a few things about SFA's transition to the University of Texas system. So purchase orders, again, we pay by purchase order unless it's by a procurement card or another avenue, but the majority are by purchase order. So you'll see a name change. So our name is going to be Stephen F. Austin State University, a member of the University of Texas system. We won't be UTSFA. It's going to be reflected similar to the nature I have it listed there. Don't quote me on the fonts or whatever, but I wanted to at least get that across to everyone. Our contracts that we do with vendors, we'll have updated name on those as well. If we have construction contracts with you or services agreements with your company, things of that nature, then you'll see that name change. And again, all of this won't happen 9/1. You know, we're officially a member as of 9/1, but it's going to be over time. So just be patient, bear with us. We have a lot of internal documentation that we're working on to get those updates made. We will continue to utilize our state and cooperative contracts with minimal changes. Our purchases equal to or less than $15,000 will continue to utilize the vendor of choice. So this is a great thing. Back in 2018, that was $10,000 when I was here. So I heard a lot of feedback, and so again, SFA, under the statutes from the state of Texas, we can set what our bid limits are. But again, we can't put it at $100,000. I mean, again, it's one of those things you have to be kind of strategic in what you're doing. So we were able to raise ours from $10,000 to $15,000. So that just gives more buying power, and from a local standpoint, a department can reach out to you and any vendor of choice if it's under $15,000, what they're wanting to purchase. So I feel like that was something positive that SFA was able to accomplish. And I believe it was maybe about 3 years ago, we were able to get this accomplished. Probably may have been right around COVID time, I'm not sure. But anyway, I want to make sure you all are aware of that. Also, along those same lines, we have what's called formal bid limits, and so that went from 25 up to 50. So again, it just gives a little bit more buying power, kind of expedites the process from getting quotes and things of that nature, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail here in a little bit. We do have a website, SFA does. I'm sure you're probably aware of it, but if you're not, it's the SFA UT Transition website. I've listed the link there. It's got every bit of information from the beginning of entertaining, joining a system to date. So it's got a lot of information out there. So just wanted to share that with you. And then talking about contracts, I mentioned that a little bit a moment ago. I mentioned about maybe our name will appear different on there. Also, I wanted to mention, as far as construction contracts, anything that's 10 million or greater, it may, and I will use the word may, be administered by the University of Texas System Office and our SFA Facilities Office. Some of you might know it as physical plant, but they kind of refer to themselves as the Facilities Office. So what that means is, as you know, we have a lot of building projects on campus right now. We're pretty proud of them, pretty exciting. Our grand opening for our fine arts will be very, very soon. So I highly encourage you to, as a community member and a business, to try to please come to that open house and that event. So that's, I believe, coming up in September. So with that being said, we just have the resources of the University of Texas System to help us administer those contracts. Those are huge compliance contracts. Kim and I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. I could spend a whole day training on compliance. But we're responsible for that as professionals, Kim and myself. We all, if we are purchasing for the university, we are required to have certifications. So Kim and I both, if you noticed on your handout, the CTCM, that stands for a Certified Texas Contract Manager, and the CTCD is a Certified Texas Contract Developer. And so we are required by the state of Texas that all of our staff, we attend training, and we also have to pass that certification. So again, from the construction standpoint, that's a great benefit, Kim and I, for our office, because there's so much compliance involved with that. It's not that we're not going to be involved in it, it's just they're going to take on the administration of that. So if you're a vendor and we have a project that's over 10 million and it goes out for bid, then it may be that you'll be working with the University of Texas System Office as far as submitting your apps for payment and things of that nature. Just kind of be aware of that. It's not that, oh, it's UT's contract. That is not the case. UT is just administering the compliance requirements related to that project. So and as far as minimal changes to contracts, we have terms and conditions on our contract. And again, as an institution of higher ed, when we all do our PO terms and conditions or our contracts, we always look at our peer institutions. That's just what we do. We network with them, and when legislation comes out every 2 years, we determine what changes do we need to make from a compliance standpoint. So we all Kim and I are both part of a procurement officer group, and we share our information. I'll say that's great about institutions of higher ed. We share a lot of our information with each other so that we don't all have to reinvent the wheel, figure out, okay, how do we need to comply with this? So you might see some minimal changes on contract terms as well, but nothing that I would say that you would need to be concerned about. We talked about best value procurement. Again, remember, we're a public entity. So in purchasing our goods and services on a best value basis, we have guidelines that are governed by the Texas Education Code, and it's 51.9335 if you care to look at that. And then we have to abide by our university policies and procedures. And so, again, I mentioned that earlier, officially we will join the University of Texas system as of 9/1. And again, that will be a transition period of a lot of things within our office internally. It'll affect more internally than, I think, outward facing. So hopefully we can reassure you of that today. One other item that I want to mention about the transition, and I'll do that right here because I failed to mention it. One thing that we did transition in joining the UT system that's already really happened is our insurance. So we're talking about our property insurance, our auto insurance, liability insurance. So all of the UT schools, it comes under one umbrella, and that's under the University of Texas system. So we no longer, in our procurement office, have to worry about procuring or getting our insurance from ABC vendor and so forth. And those weren't local. I just want to reassure you of that. They were those larger companies, and we were required to go through the State Office of Risk Management. Is that right, Kim? Yeah. So that was a state entity. And so now it will be through the University of Texas system. And for SFA, there was a tremendous savings cost. So if you can imagine, when you aggregate your volumes or you aggregate things, and that's where you can reap savings when you're standardized. So with us joining UT, our insurance, most all of our insurances will be there. Now athletics is a little bit different, but that is one change that I want to make sure you're aware of, that it will be under the University of Texas systems policies, and we'll just be added on to that. One other item too is our investments at SFA. So basically UT system has their investments strategies that they have, so that will be definitely a great benefit to SFA. So that will be something that will be transitioning. Previously SFA had their investments in it was like a collaborative entity, and it was with the Texas A&M system, and it was kind of like a pool. So that will be transitioning. So again, that's investments. Investments weren't handled locally. That was at that higher level. So that is a change that I want to share with you. So that's not really my area, but just from an awareness, I wanted you to be to communicate that. Another thing that's just ongoing, I mentioned a little bit about policies and procedures, or it's up here, is our office has a lot of policies and a lot of procedures internally. And so we have had to revise all of those. And we will go from a policy format to what's called a HOPS, and that is Handbook of Operating Procedures. So that just aligns with the UT system and the other schools. And so again, it's not that all the policies are changing, it's just the format and so forth. We do have to comply with the University of Texas Regents rules, as well as the UT system rules. And so again, but we still at SFA will have our own policies for the majority of the procedures and things. So again, just wanted you to be aware of that. And so that's been a huge undertaking in our office, and just extremely busy, but you know, any transition with change, you just kind of go through the pains till you get to the other side. So again, we're hoping that that's going to be finalized soon. Our policies are on our website. So again, I'm going to mention it again. Our website is in transition. So, you know, you may look at it today and then you go look at it next week and you might see a change. So just please make sure you're aware of that. Call our office if you have a question about something. But so those policies that are listed are going to be changing and updated to a Handbook of Operating Procedures. So we use those every day, all day long, pretty much, all of our purchasing team. Because again, you can imagine all the different requests that come into our office. We have to ensure that we're complying by the state guidelines as well as our internal. So, as far as best value, again, we want to meet the needs of our departments. We want to get what they need, when they need it, and guess what? They needed it like yesterday. So Kim and her team, they do an awesome job serving our campus. And I assist as needed as well. But again, we want to meet the needs. We wouldn't be there without our students. So we're doing everything we can. Right now it's massive, getting ready for students to come back on campus. Apologize in advance, so don't go down North Street. But anyway, we're excited they're going to be back. And so we want to meet the needs because again, ultimately we're there because we have our students. And again, we want to make sure we get an acceptable price within budget. Budget's a big key component for all of our departments. University needs. I talked about legal policy, talked about a little bit about that compliance. And again, we have to have compliance depending on what the value of the procurement is, what type of commodity or service are we, is the department wanting to buy, whether our contract documents involved, I mentioned contracts a little bit, and whether a solicitation is needed. So if you recall, I mentioned we have our bid limits changed, and Kim will go into that in detail a little bit, but we went from a 25,000 formal bid limit to 50. So that gave a little bit more range for our departments to be able to go out and get quotes from whoever they want to, but there's a requirement with how many quotes you have to get, and Kim will go over that. So I think we've made some big strides in improvement from the best value procurement standpoint. Options to buy with a procurement card or submit a requisition. And again, all of our departments initiate the purchase process. So as a vendor, you know, that's really who you want to be talking to as departments. You can call Kim or myself. We can help set up meetings with those applicable departments depending on the type of business you have and the services you provide, goods or services. As far as a procurement card, I just want y'all from an awareness that at SFA, our departments can make purchases on a procurement card, but it has to meet the required criteria. I'm not going to go into detail about that, but their single transaction limit is $5,000 or less. So if they need to purchase something from maybe janitorial supplies, I'll use that example, and it's less than $5,000, then they're able to put that on their P card. But again, there's certain criteria it has to meet. If there's ever a contract, they can't put it on their procurement card. So again, they have the vendor of choice. They have to follow the guidelines. And here's examples: office supplies, subscriptions, books, things like that. So that I really just want to kind of mention it so that you're aware of that. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I was going to mention too that they're not allowed to like split purchases, like put a requisition in for like a PO and use their P card to pay for the other part. Like they can't split the purchase.
That's a
So
huge
avoid the
compliance
bidding
issue.
limit.
Yeah. So that's something that we police. We don't like to use that word, but again, our team, as well as Brittany Goad, she's our disbursement, she's our assistant director for business services, and she oversees the disbursement area. So they really make sure the procurement card is in compliance. And then on the other side, we're more so on the procurement and requisition side. So it's a very valid point. So, you know, a department can't finish paying for something and do both avenues to split the purchase. As far as a requisition, first of all, I just wanted to let you all know, this is a change from 2018 to now. We now have a vendor onboarding process. We have partnered with a third party, it's PaymentWorks. And so PaymentWorks is our partner. And so anytime we need to, a department wants to purchase something, and say you're not already an existing vendor at SFA, then you will get an invitation from that department. It'll be an email, and it will be asking you to complete a registration, okay? And what's great about partnering with PaymentWorks, in most institutions of higher ed have done the same. They followed suit. Remember we talked about fraud and all those kind of things? This protects your vendor information. Your EIN, your social security number, if you use that for your business. It has all of that that's confidential, and it's not like a piece of paper that's floating around for everybody to kind of see your information. So we've had a lot of process improvement that we've accomplished by doing that. A vendor can put their insurance certificate in there. We ask a vendor, are they hub certified? Are they hub vendor? That's important to us, and we'll talk about that in a minute. We also make sure of where do we need to send POs. It helps us with a lot of those questions that we would normally ask via the phone or via email, and we get that in the vendor registration. So just be aware that that vendor partner is PaymentWorks. So as far as a requisition, Kim kind of mentioned that earlier about a requisition. It's a request for procurement to place an order. And again, we have a lot of compliance that we're making sure of. We're making sure the funds are available and the appropriate approvals. So it goes through approval. So a department can't just request something and we're just going to process it. We have approvals in place and procedures. We talked about the processing. We talked about under 15,000, again, vendor of choice. And then other processing options are our state and cooperative contracts. Some of you may recall those being referred to as group purchasing organizations. So we are a member of several, and then we also have solicitations for informal and formal. And so I believe I'm gonna let Kim talk about these. So,
Okay.
not that I'm talking the whole time.
Well, a lot of times vendors don't even understand, what are state or cooperative contracts. And so, the reason we utilize those is because if you're a member, if you're on a state or cooperative contract, then we don't have to go out for a bid. So if a department gets a quote for $35,000 and they get it quoted off a state or a cooperative contract, then we don't have to do a bid. And so a state contract can be text mass, it can be a DIR contract, a TPAS contract, state travel, and then there's cooperative contracts such as Buy Board, Choice Partners, E&I Cooperative, Equalis, TIPS, we use TIPS a lot, Vizient, and Sourcewell. And then now we also will utilize the University of Texas Supply Chain Alliance. And so, do any of y'all have questions about being on a cooperative? Or, I mean, this would be a good time to ask. Or do you, I mean, no?
There's no preference as far as if we're covered all, I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, like, we can't sign y'all up on the cooperative, but you could contact us and we could get you in touch with the right people. And it's much like a bidding process. So they have bids that they put out, like HVAC, plumbing, construction, copiers, anything like that. And then if you're on a cooperative and we are buying something from you that's over $15,000, then it's okay because you utilize that cooperative contract.
And I'll add to that, because it's already been competitively bid. You know, the
Yes.
state of Texas wants to provide fair and open competition, as SFA does. That's important to us. And so, a department can get multiple quotes off of a cooperative if they want to, and they don't have to go with the lowest bidder. They can go with the quote that best meets the needs of SFA. So, anyway, thank you for kind of sharing that,
Yeah,
going into
I-
that. And we can help you all get on a cooperative. I know there's some of you in the room that maybe in the past, maybe your predecessor, I talked with your company about that. Again, we're happy to help you, get you in touch with the Buy Board or some of those other cooperatives listed, because they publish their bids. It's a great opportunity to grow your business. They publish their bids on their website, and you can respond to that bid. If you sell janitorial supplies, then you might want to submit a bid. If Buy Board's putting one out, go ahead and submit a bid. We'll help you if there's something we need to do to help you with that. And then what's great about all of these, any institution of higher ed, state agency can go to these contracts. It's like, oh, I'll just use SFA as an example. If we were a vendor, SFA is on this contract. I'll go just call them and get a quote. It's that simple. So it helps open up other opportunities for your business also.
That's what I was gonna say, it opens for any state agency, it opens up the opportunity to potentially do business with other places besides SFA, so. And you can go to our website, at any time, our procurement website, and, you can find all this information on the website, and so, yeah, so,
This is more
here's a
detail
link.
about Buy Board.
Yeah, Buy Board, we use Buy Board a lot, and so here's a link, and there is a difference, like sometimes we'll have vendors and they'll go, oh, well, I went and got signed up to be on TIPS. Well, what they really did is they went and signed up to get notifications for bids or whatever. It's not that you're on TIPS just because you went in and completed the form. Same thing with Buy Board. It gets your information into the system, but then you still have to go through a bidding process and be awarded.
And that's just an example.
Yeah.
And I will mention, a lot of our ISDs will use Buy Board as well. They purchase their buses, which SFA does too. Kim, I can't tell you how many, whether it's a vehicle or whatever it may be, that's an avenue, because they have, those negotiated pricing, that's already been
And
done.
it's not that, like, we want to always do business with our local vendors, but sometimes nothing's black and white in procurement. So if we have time, we'll always put an informal bid out and try to do business with a local vendor, but a lot of times it's easier to go find a vendor that's on one of these cooperatives, especially when we're in a pinch, and we need to get some work done or a PO out the door. And so, I would say the only drawback to being in a cooperative is there are fees involved. I think Cox is on a few, and so it's, you know, I say it's a double-edged sword, so to speak, you know.
But it opens up other opportunities,
You have to pay a little bit of money, but,
maybe
anyway,
get more business. I
but
guess I
it
should
helps
say.
you get more business, that's what I'm trying to say, I guess.
Okay,
Is that?
Yeah.
One of the first questions that our buyers will ask a potential new vendor is, are you a vendor that's on a state or cooperative contract? So that's why, like we have a local business, that we do a lot of business with, that's not on a cooperative. And, we would love for them to get on a cooperative, so we just highly encourage that if you can. It makes the procurement process, a lot easier. And then we also ask if you're a hub or if you have a hub partner, because by the state, it's mandated by the state of Texas that we do business with hub historically underutilized businesses. And when we do formal bids or informal bids, we always have to solicit hub businesses. And so there's probably a lot of people in the room that could sign up to be a hub, and Kay can definitely tell you how to do that. And so I was going to talk about our bid limits. So the department's 15,000 and under, they can buy from anyone they want to. Sometimes we encourage them to get a couple of quotes, even if it's below 15,000, just to make sure they get the best pricing. But 15,001 cent to 50,000 is an informal bid, and that can be a quick turnaround for us. So we can put an email blast out and turn that around in a day or 2 days or 3 days. But if we, well, let me stay on topic here on informal bids. We usually have the brand and a model or equivalent that we will request when doing the bid, and we always get 3 quotes. And like I said earlier, 50% have to be minority businesses. And the departments can do that step too. A lot of times, when we get the requisition, they've already gone out and gotten 3 quotes. But sometimes it's a pause for us because they haven't gotten a quote from a hub. So then we'll go and try to find a hub to solicit as well.
Let me add to that too, Kim. And then, remember I said that word compliant, she'll get tired of me saying that. So we also, Kim and her team will make sure, is it apples to apples? Did they get 3 quotes, but did they really get it quoted for the same or
Yes.
equivalent?
Yeah, you have to make sure we're
So
comparing
it's a
apples to
pause,
apples.
and we do find at times, but hey, you know, we have this. So again, it gives departments that choice. They can go out and get the quotes, but then we're gonna make sure they comply from that
And
standpoint.
something else I wanted to say too, I mean, we're all human, and we get we get used to doing business with the same people sometimes because we know, like, you know that person or you've done business with them before. And so when vendors call me, I'm always like, you need to go out on campus and you need to meet mainly the admin assistants, because they're your great point of contact, because all the professors and the guys in physical plant and everything, a lot of times they're looking to their admin assistant. They're like, hey, you know, we need to get a quote for this or whatever. And so it helps if, you know, if you make an appointment and get yourself out there at SFA, get your face seen, pass your business cards out, you know, get known, because if they don't know about you, they're not gonna call you.
And we can help with that too in our
And we
office, as
can.
I mentioned. Sometimes it might be a matter of, you know, we get a meeting set up, you know, bring to us what products and services you have to offer. And then we can work with those departments that we know there might be a need over there, or there's those items. They actually utilize those items on a day-to-day basis.
And because,
so.
yeah, we've actually had vendors call and they're like, well, you know, we don't ever, you know, sometimes we don't ever get a call, and I'm like, well, you know, have you gone and met these people, because they may not know about you, you know? And so if you send me the information, or Kay the information, we always pass it along. Like, we're like, hey, we talked to so-and-so, they've got a business here, this is their contact information, this is what they provide. And it's just getting yourself out there too, helps us help y'all.
One more thing, let me mention this,
Uh-huh.
Kim. So I don't know if any of you have, we try to do a vendor fair on campus. And it's really mainly, we try to, if you have an interest that you want to have a booth at our vendor fair, it's a great opportunity to meet our campus. Then send myself or Kim an email. We'll put you on our list because we want to try to, you know, help you in any way to grow your business. And we welcome new business. I mean, as Kim said, some departments get a little complacent, and I'm just being honest about it. You know, they always use this vendor, but do you really know, this is what we say to them, are you really getting the best pricing?
And we encourage them to try to use.
So, again, we're your advocate, so just reach out to us, we can help in any way, but if you are interested in, we probably won't have our vendor fair, we just had one in May, it won't be till probably October of 24, that's hard to say, but, you know, about a year and a half from now, so, I know it's not that far, but anyway, thank you, Kim. So,
And I wanted,
yeah, he's got a question, I
Okay.
think.
Hey, so I don't want to jump ahead, but I do want to ask a quick question to make sure I understand, because I'm here representing the chamber, and a lot of our business community, I'm sure, is going to be there, not here today, they want to ask. So I'm going to, if you don't mind, I want to make sure that I understand the concept before we move too far along. And I'm going to pick on Tippin Ford. I see Ray mentioned some of the guys here from us. So the most important thing as a chamber member, if they're not on the state or the cooperative list, they need to get on that, correct?
We encourage it.
We encourage it. Okay, then for example, let's say Ray Mitchell reaches out, he's the fleet manager, and there's an opportunity for SFA to purchase 20 new vans. Then that process is going to be mailed out to anybody on that list, correct?
What list? What list do you?
So like on your vendor list.
Well, we don't really have a vendor list. We post, and Kim will talk about that, so it's a good question. We want, okay? And so, you know, it might be if a business wants to check routinely, weekly, hey, what's the open solicitations that SFA has? That's always posted on our website.
Okay.
So-
Second part of that question, sorry, is, and I keep hearing this, I just want to make sure that I'm hearing it correctly, is the local, let's say, whoever is in charge of SFA of purchasing those vans, that person is in charge of working with your office and then procuring bids, looking at all the bids to make the best decision. For example, buying local and then also having the local service department to go along with it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just want to verify and make sure I was hearing that correctly.
But just to let you know, as Kim mentioned, buy board is a huge one for vehicles. I'm just saying, all your ISDs and, you know, if you're big buses or whatever, and they also have awarded contracts for many dealerships and things like that. So that is an avenue, and we have the right to do that. You know, it's in compliance. We're not trying to take away from local. I've talked to Ray many times, and he's helped us get a vehicle like yesterday. He's helped us, I can tell you. So thank you for what you've done. So we just have to make sure we comply, and we can't dictate how they do it. We just have to make sure it's in compliance, and it's up to our department. And getting, you know, if they have something they want to go get a quote from and it's on buy board, that's up to them, but then we're going to make sure it's in compliance.
Gotcha. Now, I just wanted to pick on Ray because they just sold me my son's car, so I have to say that off now.
Yeah.
Just as far as any other the business community that focuses on that, I just want to make sure.
No, and
that I was
that's
understanding correctly.
very valid question. That's why you'll hear us talk about these cooperative contracts. It's again, it's not just SFA, it's other institutions of higher ed as well. That's why they're out there. They've already been competitively bid. And remember, I mentioned a department, when they want something, they wanted it like yesterday. When our team tells them, well, in order for us to put out a formal bid, and I'm getting ahead, Kim, sorry, it's going to take at least 3 weeks, 2 weeks for it to be out on the market, and then a week to just analyze it, that they frown at that. But again, yeah, you're welcome. We don't dictate that, the state of Texas does, so.
I was gonna say, we would love for Tippin Ford to get
We're on tips now, so.
you are?
Yes, ma'am.
When did that happen?
This year, we got tips this year.
Did you know that?
Nope.
And now we're pursuing buy board. Bobby will
Okay.
finally open up. Every 3 years, Bobby will allow.
And I will say
Well, that
this,
is great news, because we
we've
need to
mentioned
buy
that to
vehicles.
all of our dealership, you know, local, because we want to buy local. And it's easier, I mean, you know, it honestly is, but again, we have to comply with these guidelines, and it's gotta meet one of those criteria, so that's excellent news. Yes, Shelley?
Is there a limit to the amount that can be purchased through a cooperative?
So, good question. So, we have to do our due diligence to make sure we're getting best pricing. So we try to get 3 quotes, okay? If it's off of a cooperative, say it's a vehicle. Kim and her team, they're trying to get multiple quotes, and then you're trying to make sure it's apples and apples. You know, well, this one may have this feature, this one may not. So there's a lot of that back and forth. Is it utmost required? No, but it's highly encouraged, because we want to make sure that we're meeting our department's needs and they're staying within budget, and they're getting a good price. So that, you know, that's just common sense, right? That we all try to make sure you don't just go with what you get at face value. I will say, in joining the UT system, there may be some things internal that we, you know, I said it's recommended, not required. There may be some things internal that will change for us in regards to that. Does that make sense? So, okay. Good question.
Well, I was gonna talk about the formal bids, and that kind of, cars are a good one to talk about. So, we've purchased a lot of vehicles lately, and so those are always gonna be over the bid limit most often, even over the informal bid limit. So what we have to do, anything 50,000 and 1 penny and up, we do have to do what's called a formal bid if we don't find someone on a state or cooperative contract. And so, there's things that we have to abide by, like when we do a formal bid, it can be, formal bid can be low price. So we put it out, we have to post it on our website. We try to solicit every local vendor that we know about. And when I say local, it could be Nacogdoches, Lufkin, Crockett, you know, San Augustine, Tyler. But always our Nacogdoches vendors we're gonna solicit. And so that they have to be posted for 14 days. And it is what it is, it's low bid. It doesn't matter who the vendor is, whoever sends the low bid in, that's who it gets awarded to when it's a formal bid, an ITB. And then we have some that are called RFPs, request for proposal. And those usually have to be put out for 3 weeks. And those are more for services, like
In complex type
they're
purchases.
more, yes, and that's not based on low bid. Those are evaluated by a team of usually 3 to 5 people, and then they're scored, and we put it into an Excel spreadsheet and calculate, you know, who's gonna get awarded. But it could be the highest bidder, or it could be the lowest bidder.
And they have what's called the best value criteria, evaluation criteria, and we list it in our bid document. Not all institutions do that, but we let our potential vendors or respondents know how we're gonna evaluate the bid. I think that's important in my role, to share to all of our vendors, if you are interested in bidding on this project or this purchase, commodity and or service, then we need to let them know how we're gonna evaluate it. So again, I don't anticipate that being changing, but it's possible, but I don't anticipate that changing even joining the UT system. Yes.
I was just gonna say, for anyone that is interested in getting on tips, we had a point person that worked incredibly well with us for tips, and I will share that contact information with any vendor here. He will come to them and walk them through the process.
That's great, great. Okay.
Yeah, and we do have a vehicle to buy, so. And then there's something called a request for qualifications, and that's more for legal.
It's really like,
attorneys,
yeah.
and that's just awarded based on their qualifications.
And it could be architects as well, engineers, and again, the state dictates what type of procurements we can issue an RFQ for, so.
And then, so when there is a formal bid, whether it's an RFP or invitation to bid, those are, they're either sent to us electronically, which most people do that now, or they can be hand delivered. Sometimes we allow them to be faxed, but I don't think people fax anymore. And so like a lot of times they're due like at 3 p.m. You know, a certain day. Well, you can come to the bid opening. for an invitation to bid, and we literally, they're presented to me, and, we open them, we read the vendor's name, and we read the price if it's an invitation to bid. If it's a request for proposal, you're also welcome to come, but we just read the vendor name, not the price. And it, you know, you're still not gonna know who's gonna be awarded on those for sure. Invitation to bid, when you leave out of there and the price is read, you probably have a pretty good idea, oh yeah, it's gonna be me because I was the low bid. But they still have to be evaluated to make sure that they returned all the required documents and signed everything and complied. Oh yeah, and so we get emails all the time. They want to be added to our vendor list, and probably a lot of businesses do maintain a vendor list, but we don't maintain a vendor list. But if you send an email to me and you're a flooring company or a paint company, or you sell a little bit of everything or whatever, and because I do the buying for a lot of departments, I'm gonna keep your email in a file, but I'm also gonna pass that information out to the departments that is applicable to. And then if we do get a bid, and hey, that person's reached out to me, I'm gonna go to my email and I'm gonna find that vendor's information and make sure that I solicit them as well. And so we do have a link here that tells you how you can subscribe to get all the notifications. And so y'all might want to just, well, y'all got it, right?
Yeah, and I will make note, and the yellow is highlighted. You know, our website's very user-friendly, but if you go to the link that's provided there, you'll need to scroll down to the bottom right corner and you'll see Do Business. You click on Do Business, and then you'll need to scroll to the bottom left to get Subscribe Vendor. So again, our website's user-friendly. There's a couple of ways to get there, but I wanted to clarify
and
that.
it's like
in
a
your handout.
Bible. It's like anything and everything you want to know about procurement is on that website.
Yes.
We're very
Yes.
transparent, and a lot of vendors don't know this. So because we are required to post on the electronic state business daily all of our bids, so is everybody else in the state of Texas. So there's tons of opportunities for y'all to actually do business, maybe with other state agencies. You can go out there daily and you can look, you know, put in like a search word like vehicle, and you can see like all the bids out there for, you know, fleet vehicles or whatever, construction, janitorial. I mean, it's just everything. So like when I'm talking to a vendor, a lot of times I tell them about the electronic state business daily, not just for our bids, but for looking for any bid that you might have the opportunity to increase your business.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about supplier diversity, and I'm kind of checking our time. I think we're doing pretty good. So again, we talked a little bit about this. You know, we are committed to make a good faith effort to increase our business with historically underutilized businesses, which you'll hear us referred to as HUB. We can do that directly or indirectly. A lot of our HUB spend that we receive is through our subcontracting opportunities. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of construction projects on campus right now. And so we award a bid to that prime contractor, and then it's their responsibility to subcontract out the components or the different trades that need to be awarded to finish the job. So a lot of those, we give a contractor a goal, what's called the HUB goal, what we're looking for. And again, the state of Texas says that's required. We're required to do that. So if you were to look on our website, you can find the HUB program and all their information. I won't go into all that today, but we list our state goals, our SFA goals. That's on there. It tells you what the first step to become HUB certified, what you need to do. You can certainly call us as well. And it kind of defines what a HUB business is. So I'm not going to kind of go over that definition. It's out there for y'all to review, but just wanted to mention that to you. And again, we want to provide full and equal opportunity for all. And any new vendor that onboards with SFA, I mentioned we have a partner, it's Payment Works, that's our vendor onboarding partner. We get a report weekly, and any new vendor that comes on that report, then we send them a letter. So we send that letter out, and we indicate to them that it's to inform them about the HUB program and also about being possibly certified. So we are actively trying to seek out new vendors. Now, if you're a vendor on the receiving end and it's a procurement card, we don't do the letters for procurement card. I'm talking about a requisition and a purchase order, if a purchase order is issued to you. So again, it's a letter that we send out where they're willing to help you get certified in any way that we can with the state as a HUB vendor. Here's our website information. I think it's on your handout. Benefits of a HUB certification, typically it's not a cost. I know to be on the CMBL, it's not a cost to apply. I believe they've made some changes in the recent years. They've tried to enhance their HUB certification. So again, there's a lot of information out there, so you can certainly go out and research that. When we are working on bids, Kim mentioned about how we have to do 50% HUBs. This is where we go. We go to what's called the centralized master bidders list, and we're out there looking to see for those types of products or services, potential HUB vendors that can provide those services. So we're required to reach out to them. And that's the directory I was talking about. And as far as from a compliance standpoint, any projects that are 100,000 or more require a HUB plan. We require each procurement for that vendor to do a good faith effort to do business with minority businesses. Actually, SFA has an internal dollar amount, which is 75,000 or more, because again, it's our commitment to the program that we're trying to do business with more and more minority businesses as we can. So, but statute requires 100,000 or more. I already mentioned about the website. I will share recently, Lacey Bradshaw, she is now the HUB coordinator, and she works very closely with me. And so you can contact either of us to assist you, and all of our contact information is on our website, so feel free to reach out there, or you can reach out to me because you'll have that in your handout today. Collegiate licensing. I know this is a topic that I wanted to make sure that we addressed for everyone, and I wanted to kind of share as far as logo and some of those types of things. Our logo is not going to change. Okay, so I think that's been some questions of everyone about our logo. Our university marketing department representative, her name is Robin Johnson, and she's the assistant director for publications and design. I reached out to her because I wanted to, so I'm gonna read verbatim what she told me because I want to make sure I share that with each of you here today. Our swag logos will be considered on a case-by-case basis, just like we do now. So nothing's changing there. So, if you got some swag or whatever, somebody's wanting a department's reaching out to you and you're quoting. So, that will be determined on a case by case. The reference to the UT system will more likely be on printed brochures, posters, tablecloths, and other large items. So referencing that University of Texas system. Those are kind of some things just to kind of make note of. Our Texas Spirit logo, which is on your presentation today, your notes, it's not changing. Okay, and I'm getting this from our marketing office. And again, she put in her email, I repeat, not changing. So again, our logo is not changing as far as our Texas Spirit logo. Nor are we, are our colors changing. So our colors aren't changing either. She did make a note, and I want to share this with everybody here today. We will be adding the system orange as an accent color somewhere, okay? So just keep that in mind. I don't know what that means, but just wanting to share with you all and be very transparent about it. So that goes hand in hand, our logos with our collegiate licensing. So again, these are things that are logo, brand, word mark. It must be made from a vendor that's licensed to sell SFA's products. Yes?
So I know on the licensing by university, are we, you can do just one university or you can do multiple?
That's correct.
Are we going to need to have the multiple license and get the UT licensing, or can we just stick with the
is my understanding as of today, it's just the SFA licensing, okay? If you have any trouble with that, feel free to reach out to Kim and I, and we'll get you in touch with Robin, but my understanding, it's still SFA, okay?
Thank you.
Now, if you want to broaden your, opportunities, then you might want to get that multiple. But again, we are number 14 joining the UT system. So there was 13 institutions, and now we make 14. So that's a good many. So again, I just mentioned, collegiate licensing is overseen by SFA's athletics department, and you might make a note in your notes as well, and the UMC department. UMC is our University Marketing Communications department. Robin Johnson is that's her department. So again, athletics is athletics, but then, we have other things outside of athletics as well. On our procurement website, we have a listing of all the approved vendors and their collegiate licensing. Again, we try to update those at least annually. I know recently Robin's office sent us a new listing, so that's probably a process getting loaded, so give it a few days and we'll get that updated. So again, it kind of tells you, I know Kim and her team, if they get a request for a purchase and they see that it's t-shirts with a logo or something on it, they're gonna go check and make sure that vendor is on this list so that we can purchase from them. So, got two different websites there. I added the CLC.com, so you might write that down. IMG and CLC, they've kind of, I don't want to say one's the owner of the other, but a little bit of a merge there. So just depending on what product you're looking for. So just make note of that, please, in your handout. Also, there's 3 types of licensings. I guess you could really say 2. There's an internal campus supplier license, and then internal and local, like 1 and 2 are kind of together. And then there's 3, which we call the standard, or it's called retail. It's a retail type license. And that's the one that's the most expensive type license to pursue. If you want to know more about that, it's on our website. Again, the main one is the internal one, and that's, for logos on t-shirts, promotional items, pens, like today, hopefully you all got a pen at your desk, and so forth. So, again, the fees, and I put approximately 100, those are consistently changing. So it depends on what it is. So I think some of them can be up to $250, I hate to say it. So again, I highly encourage you to go to those websites, research those, and or you can reach out to Robin Johnson at SFA. And again, there's a time requirement there. It takes a good bit of time. I believe for those of you that are familiar with athletics, Wally, I always miss his last, Crittenden, I think is his last name. He does a really good job on athletics, but latest I know it was Wally still handling that. But again, it takes time. So if you ever inquiring, you've applied, contact us in our procurement office. We'll help you get in touch with the right person and see if we can help you out. Let's see. Okay. So, any questions about logos or collegiate licensing?
I just renewed my license, it's up to $150.
Okay, $150. Thank you for sharing that. So, $150. So, but again, contact us. We're happy to help in any way. Let's talk about vendor credibility. I talk about compliance a lot. Again, Kim in our office, we are required to make sure that if we are going to do business with a vendor, that there are no restrictions or exclusions for doing business with them. And that's what's on it's called the Federal System for Award Management System. Every one of our purchases checks every single vendor to make sure they're not on there. We also verify that they're not a state debarred vendor. We also have to look at conflicts of interest. That's a big thing in procurement, big deal. All employees at SFA, we're all required to identify vendors with whom the employee is associated with annually. They have to disclose their family relationships, their financial, personal, ownership, and if they have a relationship with a board member. So probably that last one, after 9/1, that will probably fall off because again, at SFA, we don't actually have a Board of Regents any longer. We fall under the University of Texas system. So again, this is huge for our office in the procurement world. Our purchasing team is making sure when they have a request that's been approved by a department, and it's to ABC vendor, So then, one of their items on their checklist is to make sure that there are no conflicts that anyone has with ABC vendor. So we have something systematically in our banner system that they can go in and look up to see, oh, well, Kay Johnson is an owner of ABC company. I'm just saying examples. Then again, that's a stop. That's a big red stop sign because that's a conflict of interest. And so our office screens that. And it's time consuming, but it's a requirement. We're required to do that. Also, vendor holds. Brittany Goad, as I mentioned, she is our Assistant Director of Business Services. She can't pay a vendor if they're on vendor hold with the state of Texas. I can't tell you, we get calls from time to time, well, why have I got paid? Again, we don't want to get into anyone's personal business whatsoever. The state of Texas, we have a nightly feed from the state. If any vendor is on hold or if they get off a hold, that feed happens every night, and it will not let us process a PO and or a payment. So again, we try to help guide you, or Brittany and her team. Our procurement side, we don't get involved in that too much. But and that's things like, you know, maybe it's just your quarterly tax or something. Maybe it was timing, whatever. Again, just get it resolved. As soon as it's resolved, that nightly fee comes over, and then we can go back to processing. So, you know, if you ever hear I haven't gotten paid or whatever, it could be possibly that it's a hold. But feel free to reach out to Brittany Goad and her team, and they will certainly assist you through the process. And I've got their email address down there for you. There's just other things that, you know, vendor insurance. We require that vendors, if they're working on our campus, they have to meet our insurance requirements because, again, that's a liability if you're working on our campus. We mentioned about fraud and ethics already, our purchase order terms and conditions. Vendor payments, I'll go through these pretty quickly in light of time. Already said, if you're on our campus, you have to have a certificate of insurance. You have to make sure that you're, that's one of our purchasing team steps. We have our requirements of our minimum insurance requirements.
I was just gonna mention, sometimes, there are local vendors that don't meet our insurance requirements because they're just a small mom and pop company. And we can make exceptions. We just go to our, risk management office and say, is it okay for this vendor to come on campus? And sometimes they may say, well, can I supply their automobile insurance or something of that nature.
Or a little bit lower limits, depends on the type of job too. So good point, thanks Kim for mentioning that. We talked about fraud and ethics, it's just a big thing. We've got policy references, but make note, as I mentioned earlier, these policies are going to be updating and changing to what we call Handbook of Operating Procedures. So that's forthcoming, so be aware of that. We talked about our PO terms and conditions. Again, we're required by the state to include certain disclosures and so forth. If any of you have done business with us and you've read, you know, our PO terms and conditions, we don't just, our legal doesn't just create those. We're required by the state that we include all of those terms and conditions in there. And then we talk about payment. If it's on a procurement card and it's official purchase order, the only method for the purchase of goods, obligated payment on behalf of SFA. So again, if you're going to do work on our campus, you must, and you're not, it's not on a procurement card, it's not like something someone paid on a P card, you must have a signed purchase order in hand before you start work on our campus, unless there's some exception, and that would be rare. So that's very important. We pay by purchase order. So I can't stress that enough, and Kim and her team work diligently on that to ensure, you know, again, we want to minimize the risk for our campus because it might be that we need some of those compliance factors. We need their certificate of insurance. If we don't have all that, then we won't be issuing the PO to the vendor. So if you'll help us with that, just make sure we pay by purchase order. Other things, again, just to ensure your prompt payment, reference your purchase order number on your invoice when you submit that to Accounts Payable Office. And again, in accordance with state law, if y'all are all aware, standard payment terms are net 30 days in our office, or the correct invoice. So maybe you sent an invoice and it was incorrect. you know, we match our invoices to our purchase orders, and we make sure that those are accurate before we process. So if there's an issue, then it might mean that count starts over. We do offer early payment with a discount, if, you know, y'all are willing to give us 5%, 10%. Again, we try to adhere to those terms on your invoice, so we want to definitely take advantage of discounts if you have those to offer. And then, again, just so you know, if SFA doesn't pay within the required time frame, we have to answer to that. Late fees, it's in accordance with the Prompt Payment Act of Texas. So, and I think I mentioned that at the beginning of the presentation that we are tax exempt, so when you do send quotes for departments, make sure, or you can contact our office to get those exemptions, and I think they're on our website too. But when you're quoting, just remember we're tax exempt. So just kind of recapping really quickly, Kim, I'll let you turn that over. I've talked enough, so.
Just to recap, I'm doing business with us. There's a link where you can subscribe as a vendor to receive all solicitations sent out by us. And you've got to be in good standing with the state of Texas. We have dedicated emails, so we have like a dedicated accounts payable email, a dedicated purchasing email. So you can email purchase at SFASU.edu. Your company's capability statement or information to share with other departments. Obtain collegiate license to be on SFA approved listing if you're interested in selling any SFA logo or branding products. And again, consider getting on a state or cooperative contract, so it will allow more bidding opportunities for you. And I think that's it. So if y'all have some questions, we're open to that.
Any questions? Again, I know I feel bad, we took a little over an hour, so I apologize, but I hope you found value in some of the information. You've got Kim and I's contact information. You also have that little slip. If there's a question you think about later on, I'm sure there's a way they can submit that to the chamber, and we're happy to follow back up on that and get an answer for you. We are excited about joining the UT system. I know there's a lot of concern and so forth, but from a resource standpoint for Kim and I and our departments, it's a benefit. It really is, because there are so much compliance and so many factors that we now have help, and we have resources for that. We don't anticipate changes to our local vendors. Hopefully we shared with you some opportunities of what you can do. If you're struggling with that, call us. Pick up the phone and call us. We want to do business locally. We want to help. We want to bring new business to SFA. That's our goal in procurement. We want to provide the fair and open competition and get new business into SFA. I think that's kind of what procurement, that's just what we do.
Well, we want everybody in here to survive. I mean,
Yeah.
We want SFA to survive. We want our local businesses to survive and thrive and grow. And so that's not going to change. Being part of UT, that's not going to change.
Yeah. So there'll be little things along the way that might. So anyway, thank you for having us today, and I hope that we've been able to answer some of your questions or meet your needs. So, thank you.
No, I think we all agree.